Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I get to share with you a couple of projects using the My Monthly Hero kit for November 2020. This month kit did sell out, but I do want to share with you what's in the kit and share a little bit of inspiration for those of you who did get the kit this month. So there are 6 they're calling them masking dies, but I'm assuming they're masking dies because they will cut all the way to the image line, which is great. But there's also regular coordinating frame cuts, which makes it nice because there's a little bit of a white border. So you get a little bit of both. There's 5 frame cuts and then 6 of the masking dies. The masking dies are the ones that are the larger, most solid image. You get the leaf, the Christmas tree, the bird, snowman, owl, and the little log cabin there. So those are your dies. You get a fabulous 6x8 stamp set, which I'm super excited about this month. I separated my dies into 2 separate parts, and I did that because we're going to do a little bit of die cutting at one time. Now in this little goodie bag there is some washi tape. We're going to open it up and take a look. This is called Red Vine washi tape. I'm going to just remove the plastic here and try and find the seam. And it's basically just red vine washi tape. It's a little less than 1/2 of an inch wide, but I like that it's solid red. This is what it looks like. You get a roll of that. You also get some sequins. In this sequin mix, you get Christmas trees and snowflakes. I wanted to open up and show you what it looked like. The snowflakes are pretty like a silver iridescent color, and then the Christmas trees are like a foil green. We'll put these back, and then you get a full-size ink pad. This is the Winter Sky Reactive Ombre ink pad. Now I'm not going to use this for my project today. I'll save this for another project later on. But the ombre ink pads are really neat, especially for your background images here. In the stamp set there's 2 background images. One's like a snowscape, the other one is like a viney foliage circle, which is nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm bringing in the MISTI. We're going to do some stamping and inking. I die cut out one section of my dies, and then I'm putting it back in the negative piece and putting it in my MISTI. I think it'll be easier for me to do my images this way because some of them, like I said, are masking dies, and I just wanted to make sure that I got them straight. Sometimes with masking dies it's hard to line up, which I found later on that these were actually really easy because they have the lineup marks. Like the snowman has the buttons and the eyes. The house has the windows and the door, and then you have the owl that has the eyes. You just line those up and it will not fail. So you don't have to do this. You could just stamp and then line it up and die. But I'm just adding my images over the top, and I'm going to do multiples too, so this is going to help out. Now once all my images are lined up with my the shape of my die, I'm bringing in some mini ink cubes. Actually all of these are from previous My Monthly Hero kits. Some of them sometimes they don't name them, so I'm not sure, but I'll do the best to name them that I can. I'm starting off with my brown ink. I believe this is pumpkin pie. I have it marked as tiger's eye from a My Monthly Hero kit from December 2017. And I can't believe this ink pad is still this juicy for being 2017. But I'm thinking it's like a pumpkin pie ink, but I put tiger's eye. But I inked up my images with that ink, and I'm going to do a little bit of shading with my Cup of Joe ink. Easy to do shading. You just roll your ink pad on the edges of your images to get that gradient look. And then there's no rhyme or reason for it. There's no particular method. You just add a little bit of shading, and that's what makes these solid images neat. But you can see the darker detail here. Okay, after we have this done, we're going to do a little bit more, but this time we're going to do a little shading with our foliage. So I'm going to bring in some green inks. Now the first one that I'm going to be using, I have it marked as a February 2018 My Monthly Hero kit. This one is called Feather. But I looked on the HeroArts site and I couldn't find a feather ink, so I could be wrong. But it's like a real pale green. If you were to compare it to oxide inks, this would be like a bundled sage. Okay, I inked up my holly, and then I'm doing a little bit of shading with my moss ink. The darker green ink is labeled, so I know that's moss. Now I'm going to do this a few times. Continuing, I want at least 2 houses, 1 snowman, 1 owl, and I want at least 3 of the holly leaves. After we have this done and repeated, we're going to do basically the same exact thing. I'm just removing these, but the nice thing is you put a piece of cardstock in there, you can stamp again and then line up your die since you kept them all together in one piece. Doing the same with our second panel. We're going to ink up, but this time I'm using a pale teal blue. This is from the February 2018 My Monthly Hero kit. It's called Robin's Egg. Love this color. I think it's so pretty. It's like a smoky blue. But I'm stamping this. I'm going to do a Christmas tree, the snowflake, and then I do end up, my stamp picked up my leaf image and also my berry, as you can see here. Kind of wanted to go for a ride, I suppose. But I'm going to reinsert those down into their home and do the same thing with this panel, just continuing it on. For my leaves, I did use my my 2 green inks, the feather and then the moss. And then for the berries, I'm bringing in a ink, and I can't read my own writing. That's pretty bad. Now I think it's Ruby Red is the red ink. It's a real pretty, like a cranberry color. Okay, kind of reinsert. I have to actually tape this leaf down to get it flat. And then you can see I have another panel that I just brought in, and I can restamp it too. And then I can just die cut it out all at once. It makes it just really easy. Now once everything is die cut out, you can see I have my 2 leaves, my 2 trees, my branches, and 3 of my hollies. I took my red Copic markers and I'm adding detail. I filled in the berries, the holly berries. I added dotted detail to my Christmas trees, and then I did color in my my house windows and door with my red ink. The berries on my branch, I did the same thing, and then I colored in the snowman buttons, the scarf of my snowman also. So we have red accents basically. Now I'm adding adhesive to all of my images. Now you think my houses look a little bit funny, but there is a method to my madness. What I'm going to do is bring in some cardstock, and I don't want to get ink on my craft mat, so I'm going to bring in my craft mat, and then both of my brown inks. I want to bring in the pumpkin pie and then the cup of joe, and I'm just drawing lines overlapping each other, creating kind of like a wood grain effect, and this way it will coordinate with my houses. I'm going to use my paper trimmer and trim down a couple of very thin strips, and then what we're going to do is turn our log cabins or our little Christmas houses into bird houses. I thought that these were the perfect images to do that. I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive to the bottom of my house, add the pole of my birdhouse right behind it. I'm going to secure it with a foam square, that way it doesn't go nowhere. And then I'm going to use my scissors and just chop off the chimney. Since it is a masking die, it worked out perfect for that because there's no white border and it flowed continuously. Just going to add a piece of foam adhesive, and that's good to go. So that's an option. If you guys have this month's kit from HeroArts, you could turn your little houses into bird houses. I think that would be so cute. We're going to flip this over and add some adhesive behind here, and then our bird houses are ready to go. Okay, once we have this done, we're going to scoot all of these over, and we're going to do some stamping with our backgrounds. So I'm taking the circle and then the rectangle, and a piece of white cardstock. I want to make sure they both fit on one piece. And then we'll place this into our mini MISTI, and we're going to stamp these. I'm using a mini MISTI because in case it gets blotchy, I can restamp it, but you can use, you don't have to use it if you don't want to. Okay, we'll start off with our winter scene. I'm going to go ahead and add my blue ink, which is the robin's egg. Ink that up, and I'm glad I had my MISTI because it had a little splotch in the middle that I need to redo. Stamp that again, and our winter scene background's good to go. Next, we'll clean off this image, and then we'll place the circle foliage background, and that's going to fit right above. Now for that one, I thought we'd go bold and go with the red ink, which again is the ruby red. And I'll ink up any kind of red ink you have, guys, would work. I'm just using My Monthly Hero mini ink cubes because I thought if you guys are a subscriber, I've been a subscriber for a long time, so I have quite a collection, and if you guys are too, you probably have the same colors. But we stamped this background, and that's good to go. I'm going to use my scissors and trim off my snowy scene background. I am going to leave a little bit of a white border around it. And then we're going to work on our first card using our snow scene. The red foliage we're going to set aside, and that's going to go for another card. Okay, for this little scene, we're going to use both of the Christmas trees, and I am going to use the snowman, of course. The lighter Christmas tree I stamped with the robin's egg ink. I did pop up with foam adhesive. The one that I stamped with my moss colored ink, I didn't add any foam adhesive. So that's going to go directly on my background. And then the snowman and my bluer colored ink are going to go be popped up. Now, I have 2 pieces of pattern paper. We're going to start off by using a piece of the washi tape though. Using the grid lines on my mat kind of as a measurement, I'm going to add some washi tape to the left side here. This is nice washi tape because it's versatile. You have a straight line straight down the middle. And so I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to just trim off the excess here. And then I'll take my blue. This is like a robin's egg colored pattern paper. It has actually stripes on it, blue and white stripes. I'm going to adhere this right over the line of my washi tape. So basically you just see one side of that vine, and it adds a really neat effect. I like the way it turned out, kind of like diagonal stripes almost. Okay, next we're taking some wood grain pattern paper. I trimmed down a panel that measures 2 3/4 inches wide, and we are going to trim it down to 3 3/4 inches tall. Next I have the sentiment that says "Let us know." I lightly tacked down my wood panel. I thought we were going to pop it up with foam adhesive, but ended up changing my mind. But we're going to insert our entire card front into our MISTI, pick up our "Let It Snow" sentiment, and I'm going to use that same ruby red ink to stamp our sentiment, just so all the red kind of coordinates. I love this color combination. It's like a pale teal with a red and brown. I like that. So our sentiment stamped. Now all we have to do is add our little snow scene. That's going to go in that middle of the wood grain area. I did add foam adhesive behind it, so it's good to go. We're going to add adhesive behind this, put this directly on our card front, and then we're going to add our little snow scene. Okay, once we have our snow scene added, I did stamp and die cut a few of our snowflakes, and we're going to take 3 of those. One is going to go above the snowflake or the snowman. 2 of them are going to go right next to the sentiment, kind of at a diagonal. And we're going to scoot this over next to the snowman's head. I think would be nice. And then that finishes card number 1. We're going to embellish it, but I'm going to embellish it all at once. We're going to use the snowflake sequin. So we're going to set this aside and work on our next card. Next card, we have the same 2 pattern papers, the striped and the wood grain. I'm just using some white cardstock, and I'm going to, in my scissors, to create a snowbank. We're going to adhere that on top of our wood grain piece. Our wood grain pattern paper measures 1.5 inches tall. We just tape down our snowbank right on top, making sure it's straight here. I'll just trim off the excess, and that's good to go. Next, I'm going to bring in some more of that washi tape, and I'm taking the line from the vine and covering the seam with it. So I have some red above it and red below it. Kind of just really blocks it off, creates a nice effect. Okay, next I'm going to flip over this. Oh, let's stamp our sentiment. We're going to stamp Winter Wishes. I'm going to use the same red ink, bringing in my MISTI here. Stamp that off to the left, and our sentiment's ready to go. Then we can pop it up with foam adhesive. This is going to go on the very bottom of our blue pattern paper there, which, by the way, measures 3¼ inches wide by 5½ inches tall. So that's going to go the full length of our card. I'm going to add our snowbank here. For this card, we're going to use our homemade tree houses. So we're going to, originally I was going to add foam adhesive or tape behind here and go ahead and add it to our card base, but I think I'm going to wait. I thought we would decorate our panel first and then add it. I think it'd be easier. So we'll just set this aside. I'm going to grab our tree houses. One of them I'm going to trim the bottom part and tuck it underneath the snowbank. The other one, we're going to shift it slightly lower than our first one, so it's going all the way over the top of our snowbank, just trimming off the excess. Okay, after we have this adhered, I went ahead and adhered this to my card front. Next, we're going to add our holly. I'm going to add holly leaves to both of the I hope I'm not calling them tree houses. So I could have called them a tree house, but they're bird houses. I'm adding the holly to the top of the bird houses. And then I'm going to also put one right next to the sentiment here. Okay, I think that's going to work out great. That's card number 2. We're going to embellish it with the other, so we'll set that one aside and work on card number 3. Okay, for this one, I want to create a window inside our wood grain panel here. We're using the same pattern papers. I found 2 dies. One of them was like the perfect size for a background, one of them slightly larger. You can see I'm taking the larger one and the smaller one, and we're going to die cut out a very thin white frame with white cardstock. And then I'll take the smaller circle die that's in this frame and die cut out a window in our wood grain panel. Okay, after we have this done, we're going to go ahead and glue down our frame, just using a little bit of glue. This is going to go around our window. Whenever I create with owls, it seems like I always create a circle window for my owls. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to go ahead, line up my pattern here, our stamped image, center it on our card front. It already has adhesive behind it. All I have to do is press it down and then press that to our card front. That way I know when I pop up our wood grain panel, it's centered. We'll just add foam adhesive behind there. Now I went liberal with this because I'm using pattern paper, and it's definitely not as thick as cardstock. So I went heavy with the foam tape. We're going to add this to the center of our card front. It should line up beautifully. And I think that looks fabulous. I love those colors. Okay, next we have our little branches. I wanted the branches coming from the top right, kind of hanging over. So I don't necessarily need to add foam adhesive. It'd be real hard because the leaves are pretty little. But what I am going to do is just add some glue to the very end of our tree branch and just have it hanging over here, over our window. And I did add my little owl. I trimmed off another little piece And I'm going to tuck it underneath our owl here. And I am happy with that. Now we have a piece, a 1.25 inch stripe piece. This is going to go on the very bottom of our wood grain panel, but it's going to go the width of our card base. It's basically going to turn our rectangle wood panel into a square when you look at it. I'm going to line it up and then just trim off the excess on the left and the right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take some white cardstock. I'm going to take that washi tape again. We're going to bring in a little bit of red. We're going to add washi tape. It's a 1-inch strip. I'm going to add washi tape to the very bottom of this panel here. The sentiment that I'm using for this card is sending warm wishes. We'll add our washi tape on the very bottom. Just basically I lined up the very bottom edge of my washi tape to the very bottom edge of my card base. It will help keep it straight. And then I'll use that same red ink and we'll ink up our sending warm wishes and stamp this right above our washi tape, if I can get it the right way. Okay, I'm going to trim this down so it is the width of my card front. So it's going to be 4.25 inches. I like to do little bits at a time so I can get it centered. And then I use my adhesive runner, and then we're just going to add this over our striped paper. We're going to have a little bit underneath our sentiment, and then there's going to be a little bit more above our sentiment. And then that finishes that card. But we lost a branch. I didn't glue it down too good. I'm going to even up this end, and then I'll take my little branch here and re-adhere this. We have a runaway. Okay. Now as I was looking at it, I just kind of didn't like the branch hanging behind our owl. I'm going to take that off, and then I'm going to trim down the bottom a little bit, and we'll tuck that on the inside of our window. And I'm just going to use adhesive for that. I have my tape runner off to the side. We'll use tape runner for that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and grab all 3 of our cards and our bag of sequins. Now I'm not going to use the Christmas trees for my cards today, but I am going to use the snowflakes. I think they're really pretty. I'm going to go ahead and add snowflakes around our little owl. I did add a few to the branches, what made it nice and sparkly. It was real pretty. And then that finishes that card. Our sending warm wishes. Now for our let it snow card, I'm going to add just 3 of the snowflake sequins to the center of our snowflake die cuts. And I think that's going to work out good. I do have the treetops have a star on it, and there was no color in it. So I'm going to bring in some gold stickles, and I'm going to fill in the star with some gold sparkle. And then I decided to dot each one of the Christmas trees and give them some gold sparkle as well. And since we dotted it with the red, I thought we'd dot it with gold too. But that's my Let It Snow card. And then last but not least, we're going to work on our Winter Wishes card. I'm going to bring in my Journey Glaze. Journey Glaze is like a glossy accents. I'm going to go ahead and go over the windows and doors of my birdhouses, and also go over the berries of my holly. And then I'm going to add some sequins too. We're going to add just a few of the snowflake sequins, and then I decided to bring in my Nuvo Simply White crystal drops and add some snow to the very top of our birdhouses. I think this just creates the perfect winter scene. Kind of having it dripping a little bit, going over our house tops makes it more look like our birdhouses. And then also the little gable window too. I went over that with my Simply White crystal drops. But that finishes that card. So these are the 3 cards that I made today, guys, with the HeroArts My Monthly Hero Kit for November. super excited about this kit. I think it's super fun and super versatile. You can do so much with it. I love that there's background stamps and masking dies. That makes it super neat. Still shots are over on my blog if you want to visit over there. The coordinating blog post is linked down below. But have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for stopping by. We will see you soon.